All right, welcome in everyone. We have our interviewee and our interviewer on with us right now. I'm going to give Rachel a moment to get herself situated. In the meantime, please remember that this is anonymous attendance. So if you wish to remain anonymous, we have disabled the chat so that you cannot use that. The Q&A section, there is an option to ask a question anonymously. You are more than welcome to ask a question in person. Just know that your name will show on screen when you're speaking. So please know that in advance. Today we have one of our branch managers actually head of a DBA, one of our DBAs here, Travis Jenkins, with us, and he's going to be interviewed by our Chief Sales Officer, Rachel Caple. We're excited to talk to Travis today about his journey into Geneva through the industry and winding up with us and how his experience has been and what resources he's utilizing to become successful. So, Rachel and Travis, with that, the floor is yours.
And I will take myself off mute. Sorry.
Sometimes technology works great, sometimes it doesn't.
Well, sometimes it's just me, and most of the time, James can attest to that. So I'm going to take the full blame for that. How are you, Travis?
I'm doing very well. And yourself?
Good, good. We had a crazy snow weird thing today. So it took about 4 times longer to get to the office, but we survived. We all survived. So we're good.
So apparently what you got, we're getting as well, which in Oklahoma we are not good with. So
Oh,
people have a hard time driving on dry days, so much less you mix in the snow and it's a zoo. So
oh my gosh, that's terrible. Well, yeah, like I said, we survived, and then it should be stopping anytime, and then it'll be fine. Hopefully, a good drive home. So, anyhow, we will get started. Thanks again for joining me to talk through some of these questions I have that are helpful and insightful for potential recruits coming on to Geneva Financial. So I'll just jump right in.
sure.
All right. So talk to us about your journey into and through the mortgage industry and what led you to Geneva Financial.
So I'm in my third year in the mortgage industry. My background really has been in nonprofit. I've worked in churches, I've worked in nonprofits, I've worked in healthcare. Majority of it was in the nonprofit side of it. And so I've just loved helping people. When I got into mortgages, I loved the opportunity to help people figure out how to, amass wealth through home ownership. I got into it with a kid that was in my youth group 100 years ago. And so that's kind of how I got into it. That was the journey for me. Um, and so when we made the transition from when we first got in, I was on the mortgage broker side of it. So that was my only experience. And that journey as a broker, one of the things that we said often was that brokers are better. And we can address that whole conversation a little bit later on. I didn't know any different at all. I just knew this is where my buddy Cody worked, was as a broker shop. And so I joined in with him because I trusted him. And so he had experience in retail before. So as we had our own, we started our own broker shop last year. We left the broker shop we were in, opened our own, and then got connected through a recruiter, had a conversation with Aaron, and we were like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. We interviewed several people, several different retail institutions, independent mortgage banks, that kind of stuff, that we got connected with. We had a conversation with Aaron, and then we started calling because, like a lot of people, you hear some of the things about Geneva, what they are able to offer compensation wise, and you're like, yeah. What's the catch? What's the catch? And so we literally went down the list. We just went on LinkedIn and we went on Google, or I'm sorry, on Facebook, and started looking for branch managers with Geneva, and then started looking up phone numbers and started calling. One of the guys that I talked to is one of the branch managers, the division lead named Brenton McDonald. Love Brenton to death. He has been wildly influential in us making the decision because he was like, yeah, it really is true. Just go for it. Answered every question we threw at him, invited us to be a part of the journey, his team calls, you name it. And ultimately, at the end of the day, after numerous conversations with Aaron, numerous conversations with Brett and others along the journey, we were like, this is what makes the most sense for us in the plan that we had charted out. And so for us, yeah, that was one of the things. One of the things we loved about the journey with Aaron and those conversations was I love a leader that has swagger. I want a guy who knows I can do this. You can trust me. It's going to happen. I loved his honesty, his transparency. Like right from the get go, it was, yeah, we don't do X, Y, and Z. We're never going to do that. Just try it. You're going to make more money if you do it this way anyway. And so the fact that he had been a broker in the past was really important to us because he knew the transition and what that was going to take. That was a big deal. And so for us to make that journey, to make that transition, those were the things that we were looking for. And everybody else that we talked to, they weren't going to let us do some of the things that we were really important to us. The way we took care of our people, our loan officers who were a part of the team, like it didn't really line up, and it did with Geneva. So that's how we ended up with Geneva, and I've loved every minute of it.
Good. Thanks for that. And yes, he's definitely very transparent. I always tell people, even if you don't agree with them, he's going to tell you his truth, right? So it's good.
Yeah.
What would you say the biggest difference is between companies you've originated for and Geneva?
Yeah, so from a broker standpoint, again, that's my experience only. Is you had numerous wholesale outlets that we worked with, and the systems were always different. The predictability was never there. You would take a loan to one of them, and one underwriter would give you one solution, and another underwriter would give you a completely different solution that might mirror the guidelines or it might not. You never knew if there were internal overlays. There was just, it wasn't predictable. So you would end up with some really terrible processes, terrible outcomes for your borrowers because it didn't always make sense. The preferred lender that we used on the broker side, that was the thing that was most important, is they were predictable, they were replicable, so you knew what you were going to get. You knew it didn't change from one underwriter to the next, one process to the next. And the thing that I love the most, absolutely love the most about at Geneva, because I'm a systems guy. Like, how do we make it work? It needs to be replicable, it needs to be predictable and scalable, and we have all of that. So here, it doesn't matter which underwriter picks up the file, it's going to be the same. It doesn't matter which processor touches it, the process is going to be the same. And you can count on that. You can count on the people in the back office to have your back, to work with you, and let's find a solution and move it forward. And so that's the thing that I love the most about Geneva, is those pieces, that they work together. We all work together to figure out a way to make it happen.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, the operations piece is a little bit more predictable for sure.
Absolutely.
What is your advice to anyone looking to step into a branch manager role?
What are you waiting for, and why aren't you doing it with us? If you have a network, if you have people that you already are wanting to grow with, and you have that drive and desire, the systems, the pieces that you need to grow. One of the things that Aaron told us initially was, hey, when we turn on all of the recruiting pieces for you as a branch manager, you better buckle up, because you're not going to have time to do some of the things you used to have time to do, because it's going to be coming at you fast. And that has proven to be true. Immediately, the back office pieces went to work putting together the call list, recruiting connections for us. They would schedule meetings for us. They'd jump onto my Calendly, and next thing you know, I have recruiting meetings lined up for me to make calls, to send emails, to work through, because that was already there. So there's a host of those types of resources available to us that help us to grow, to help us to have those connections, to help us to make it work. And so the team mentality, having a group call that we have regularly with other branch managers to ask questions, to bounce that off one another. It's a team mentality that helps us to really produce fantastic, high level, recruits that are gonna make a difference in the mortgage industry.
Yeah, and I find I've been talking recently, and in the past, obviously, but recently, conversations with a gal who's a loan officer. Her branch manager left the company she's with currently, and they put her underneath another branch manager group, and she asked, why can't I have my own branch, right? And they're like, no, And she's a great producer. I mean, she has enough to support a P&L. And I feel like Geneva is very supportive in teaching people how not only to manage, right, but also how do you manage a P&L? What should I be looking at? What are the steps I need to take for recruiting and marketing and all those things? I think that support is really, we have that at Geneva, and that stunned me to hear when I looked up her production. That they wouldn't offer her own ranch. So I think that's another big, key for Geneva as far as growth. People are always looking for growth.
Yeah, I feel like the upward mobility here is significant, right? Like if you can grow it as big and as fast and as large as you want for a branch or a division, like you have all of that capability.
Yeah.
Learning the accounting side of it from a P&L standpoint, like, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've, sent a Teams message to our CFO and been like, hey, can we talk about this? Because I don't see how you're getting to these numbers. And I have a background in accounting. And I'm like, show me how you did that, because where are you hitting me in these separate accounts to come to these numbers? And he's like, oh yeah, here. And we literally have jumped on calls to make it work. And for him to explain, well, here's how we're arriving at that. They really, really go out of their way to help you be successful, to understand what you're doing, and to feel confident about moving forward in what your process is.
Yeah, I agree. Yep, absolutely. All right. What are your feelings on the human culture at Geneva, and how has that factored into your success and growth?
Yeah, the human culture side of it is probably one of the reasons Geneva as a whole is so successful. Because in the tech world that we live in, at the end of the day, you just want to talk to somebody. You want to talk to a human. You want to talk to somebody who makes you feel understood, who makes you feel like they hear what it is you're saying. And so, from a consumer standpoint, having that with us as a loan officer is wildly important. And then, as a branch manager, producing branch manager, having that same experience on the backside is even more important, right? So, Rachel, how many times have I called you and been like, hey, help me understand this? I don't know what I don't know yet. I've only
Yeah.
worked as a broker. So, how does this work? And that level of support from you and from everyone else, whether it's, Telly or Aaron or James helping us with the marketing pieces, like just that there's a person to talk to. I'm email, text messages, all that's great. I'm a phone guy. I can talk the paint off the wall, as you probably well know already. But I like to be able to pick up the phone and have a conversation, because you take a 3-hour email exchange and condense it to a 5-minute phone call. It's just so
Yeah.
much more convenient. That human side of it is paramount, and it's what's helped me to trust the process even more, is because I trust the person on the other side of the process to get it done.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. The number of emails, I would much rather have a phone conversation. And I think that everyone in leadership here is more than willing to do that. At any time they're available. So I definitely think that's a big difference between us and a lot of other companies.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. Especially coming from the wholesale side, right? The broker channel, like you might get somebody to pick up the phone on the other side. You might get one person, and that might be your account rep to be the only person, and then they make calls for you. And it's just we don't have that here, right? That's not the experience that we have here, and it's one of the keys to making it all work well.
Yeah, agreed. So some of the biggest pushback we get, and I would say one of the biggest reasons we have people actually return to Geneva who might, get wooed to another company, when talking to potential recruits, right, is compensation can't be real, it's bait and switch, that the reduced P&L expense can't be real. What is your personal experience with the compensation and branch expenses at Geneva?
Yeah, the my personal experience has been that what they said was actually true. um, Coming from as an owner, right? Wheatland Mortgage was our baby, right? And I dealt with all the bookkeeping, I dealt with all the payroll, I dealt with all of that. So when loan officers closed deals, I dealt with making sure they got paid and bills, and so we were very, very keenly aware of what our overhead costs were, how the whole process worked, what we were looking at, and yeah, it actually works. They did everything that they said. I didn't, as an owner, I didn't take a pay cut to become a branch manager. In fact, when it's all said and done for last year, I will have made more money by joining Geneva than I would have having still owned it myself. Because certain categories of the expenses that we were responsible for, Geneva took over for us. And so there's never been a gotcha moment. Oh, we didn't see that coming. We didn't know that was an expense we had to pay for. Like, that's never been the case. There might have been questions on, is that the way, whether a rescore was an expense for the branch or if that was a company expense, like just not knowing some of that, but never a, haha, see, we told you it wasn't as good as that's never been the case. We've been able to pay our people, and we pay really, really well for loan officers on our side of it. And when we took other recruiting calls and we would tell them what we pay everyone, immediately I would not get a return call from others. They're like, "Well, we can't let you do that." And I was like, "Yeah, that's a problem. We're not going to ask people to take a pay cut to make the transition." And we have nobody has taken a pay cut. Nobody has taken a lower basis point payout at all. Like, it's been great. The pay structure is real. It is authentic. It is genuine, and we're making more money with Geneva than we did as owners.
Good, great. Love to hear it, and it's the consistent answer on these calls, so that's good.
Yeah.
All right, this is a big one for you and a big one for us. One of the common statements in the broker world, as you mentioned, is brokers are better. We hear it said often, but you left the broker world to join retail institution. And so what made you make that decision? I think you spoke to this a little bit, and do you still think you made the right decision?
Yeah, great question. Because in the broker world, that is the number one phrase. Brokers are better. And golly, it's just not true. There are plenty of opportunities for those who want to stay in the broker channel. And I have a lot of friends. We had a couple of LOs that didn't make the journey with us over because they just couldn't do it. Again, I am really big on systems, and they're inherent here. Like, it's just a built-in part of what we do. My personal production as a producer, since making the transition to Geneva, is probably, I think, probably up about 40%, because it's allowed me to focus on the only thing that I can do that no one else can, and that's to go get new business. If I'm having to deal with getting the business in, process the applications, process the entire loan, do the whole thing, get closing scheduled, balance with title, I'm having to do everything, then I can't go get new business. And so if you want to have a processor, then it's a third party fee that they can elect to say yes to or no to, and then you have to make some decisions. And so moving over here, when it's just built in and it's a part of what we do and it's a part of the systems that are in place, it has literally allowed my production to grow, to explode. I've seen more applications in the last 6 months since we've been with Geneva than probably in the previous 6 months, probably the previous year or more before that. Like, it's absolutely mind-boggling to me at how much better the process has been. And so again, it's the predictability, the scalability. Like, we literally have those pieces, Rachel. It's amazing that they're all together. And I'm not, again, we produced at a really high rate. The number one wholesale mortgage company in America is United Wholesale Mortgage. They're the largest. They overtook Rocket. They're bigger than all of them. And they recognize our broker shop as the fastest growing broker shop in the state of Oklahoma and in the region. And I still wouldn't go back, right? Like, it's just, I wouldn't go back to save my life. This process, this journey at Geneva has been that good and that beneficial as a whole. And that's a conversation that we have regularly in our office. Am I so grateful for that beginning part of it? Yes. Would I go back? Heck no.
Yeah.
Not at all. Not at all.
I know. It makes me, when I hear someone talking about going from retail to broker, I don't think they fully grasp what they're getting into, right? It's like the rates might be lower on the surface, but there's so much that goes into that. so much that goes into it.
In our rates, what we kept when we were making the transition, we kept our software that we were using for our LOS. It was called a ride.
Okay.
We kept it open. We still had access to it because I still had to file MCRs. Like I still had reporting stuff to do, compliance, all of it. So we kept it open, and all of our lenders were still in there. So when we would have an LO come to us and be like, "Man, our rates are just so high," well, I would just jump over there, pull up the exact same scenario, price it out, and go, "Really? Our rates here and our rates over here, there's one or two that might have had a better rate, but it's one or two that we would never do business with because the processes were terrible." Right.
Okay. Yep.
So we were comparing all along for probably 3 or 4 months before we turned off access to everybody. I mean, like, everybody just needs to trust the journey now. Like we're in, we've made the move, like just stay committed, and nobody has looked back. Once we kind of got over there and we showed them side by side, our rates are not worse. Like they're not getting a
Yeah.
better rate to go to UWM. They're not getting a better rate to go to Plaza. They're not getting a better rate to go to any of the wholesale lenders. It's just not there. The ones that
I
did
love
offer
that.
a
You
better
did
rate,
that.
yeah,
That's awesome. That's so good to hear. And I think again, the smoke and mirrors really confuse people. So, and I don't think people truly understand like what is the cost to doing business with one of those other wholesalers who is it's going to be a struggle anyway. It's going to not make you want to be in the business in the first place, right?
yeah, yeah,
That's
absolutely.
good. That's great insight. So I'm going to send anyone we're talking to you. I was thinking about going to a broker. I'm kidding. I do
Bring them
have one
on.
for you to talk to.
I'm happy to have the conversation.
Thank you. You're always great at doing all these things for us, and we appreciate that so much. You guys have been so gracious and awesome to work with. We just love your team. So,
It's a team atmosphere, right? Like that
yeah,
again, one of the things we love about Geneva is it's a team atmosphere, right? It's if I've called you and said, "Rachel, I need help," it's okay, let me figure this out. It's never been we don't do that. It's let's find a solution.
right. Yeah.
Who
Can
doesn't
we
want
do
to be a
it?
part of that?
Let's figure out how to do it. Yeah.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, what is your favorite thing about Geneva? That's a tough one, I think. For me, it's a
Yeah.
tough one.
Yeah. No, absolutely. For me, it really does come back to um, it's a team, right? It truly is. One of my favorite sayings is teamwork makes the dream work. Our people get tired of hearing it. I do not believe in. Uh, I've worked at companies that it was a family. We're all just a part of one family. No, 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 no. I ask my family to do things I would never ask a teammate to do. So I don't want to put that pressure on anybody else. But working together as a team, are there times that people will go above and beyond? Absolutely, because that's what it takes to get the process done. So yes, um, yeah, it's the teamwork aspect of it that
Okay, good. I love that. That's great. That's good. That's good. Cause we do try and, this business can be exhausting. So I think that when you have a team that you can rely on, and even though you're all exhausted, there's frustration in the industry in general. There's a lot of moving pieces, but so that means a great deal.
yeah, yeah. If we're not working together as a team, then I might as well stay in the broker channel because that's what it is. It's not a
Yeah.
team, right? Like you don't get that. You may have a good teammate in your AE, your account rep, but you don't have that from all the way down all the way down the playing field at every part of it like we do here. That is not the case. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's my favorite piece.
All right. Great answer. What is one piece of advice you would give any originator or branch manager looking to grow their business?
Um, so for me, systems are what make the world go round. If you can get good systems in place that are replicable and predictable, whether, for me on the growth side of it, again, I've been at it 2.5 years. Um, so I'm into my third year, I guess. Last year, I don't know, I closed, I think 72 transactions, 17.5 million. So it's not like it's a massive, I'm not going to make the 1% list or whatever that, the Scotsman guy puts out. Like that's not me. But I made more money last year than I've ever made in my life. And it's all because when I got into it, again, I believe in systems. So I got into it and looked for a system for how can I take what I know about developing a referral based business and use it in mortgages. And I sat down and I started making a ton of phone calls to connect with realtors. And then once you get systems in place and you start making those calls and you start getting in front of people, then it's just about delivery. And so if you really want to grow your business, number one, you need a great system to plug into. So for us, that's Geneva, right? It's replicable, it's predictable. I know once I get the application handed off, our processor is going to knock it out of the park and I don't need to worry about it. So that was the first part of it. But getting the business in, like if you're going to grow, you need the back office side of it. You need to have a team behind you that's going to make it work. That way all you've got to focus on is to go get it in. And so we preach that all the time in our office with our team of have you made your calls? Have you talked to your people? Who are you connecting with? How are you growing? And I believe in written it down. Hope is not a strategy. It's not, I don't hope to grow this year. I have a plan for how I'm going to grow this year. And let's get it in writing, because putting it in writing turns your hope and your, those items into actual movable, predictable things that you can then, check off. I've done them, and you can see that growth take place.
Yeah, that's great. That's great advice. And different from some of our other branch managers, which again, that's what I love about these calls is we get different information from everyone, and it's your truth and it's how you're operating. And I love that.
Yeah.
All right. Last question. We all know the process of moving is scary, right? Rarely easy. When you decided to take the leap and join Geneva, how was your experience with the transition process?
Golly, I don't want to overhype it, but it was seamless, right? I mean, at the time, we moved 9 LOs, producing LOs over, and it could not have been easier. Everything from, okay, here's your applications, you fill out your workplace, you fill out all of that, then HR steps in and, okay, we're ready to move your license, and literally we'd be like, okay, we're ready to move our license, and we would let Scott know, and the next thing you know, you're getting emails that things have happened for you on your behalf in the background. Just again, it's the team side of it. The thing that I love the most is that team aspect, and you have people that help. It's not that we didn't know what to do. We'd all moved our licenses before, but those pieces were taken care of. And then the onboarding side of it was so simple, was so comprehensive that nobody felt like they didn't know what to do next. There were people put in our path that, hey, do you understand how that works? They walked us through it. We had never worked with Encompass before. And so we got exhaustive, training sessions just for our branch of here's how this works and what you do, and here's the pieces to it, and all of that. In fact, I had a call with Kylie this morning, our Encompass guru, and I was like, hey, this doesn't seem to show correctly. And I sent her a snippet, and I get a phone call, and I immediately answer the call with, hey, it's your friendly, most troubling LO that you get to work with. And she just starts laughing. And she was like, well, first of all, yes, you are my most troublesome. Secondly, and I was like, thanks for the honesty. But I don't know what I don't know yet, right? So even having been, there are still pieces that I'm like, this doesn't seem to work right. And she is on a phone call with me in 10 minutes, figures it out, and it's like, yeah, I don't know why I did that to you, but yeah, there you go, it's fixed. Okay. I didn't get that at Arrive. I didn't get that at any of the other places. So that seamless transition of I'm still 6 months into this and they're still helping in that capacity, you're not going to find that anywhere else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. Great. Good. Yeah, I think our onboarding's pretty spectacular. And this special group of people that, are leading it. So it's and I think we can tailor it, right? I think this morning, for example, we have a group coming over and they got all the emails, they got all the information, but it's almost too easy, right? So I think that they were questioning it. Like, what, do we have all the information we need? We got on the phone with them, all the leaders I put a call on this morning at 9 a.m. and all the leaders jumped on that I had added, which is a testament to our team. And went through with them, and they were like, okay, we do have the understanding. So I think we can tailor that to people. We can set up different trainings, whatnot. And we really care about how people learn and how they feel comfortable coming on board. I think that's a key factor for Geneva too.
Yeah, I think, yeah, the ease, the predictability of it, golly, it really is as good as they say.
Yeah.
We weren't sold a bill of goods. It has been as good, and we left things connected on the broker side that if we hated it and wanted to go back, things could plug and play so simple. And we're ready to burn the ships. Like, there's nothing left to do. There's no reason to go back.
Yeah, good. Well, that's what we want to hear. And again, thank you so much, Travis, for joining and being able to talk through some of these things with me. I appreciate your insight so much, especially coming from the broker world. That's been really helpful, and I think it'll be helpful to other folks as well. And thanks for being such an awesome team that's enjoyable to work with.
Thanks. Appreciate it. It was fun to be on, and however we can help, we're happy to do so.
Yes, thank you, Travis. Appreciate it. Rachel, appreciate you as always. If you guys have already been working with a talent acquisition specialist at Geneva, make sure you get back in touch with them. If you have not, then you can visit joingfi.com, or you can email james@genevafi.com, or rcaple@genevafi.com, and we will get you taken care of. Travis, again, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.